Kira stood at the edge of the big play area and watched the other children laugh and run around. Her skin looked gray like old metal, and tiny blue spots appeared on her arms. She did not know that other people could see how sad she felt just by looking at her crystal skin. The space station called Harmony was huge. It had many levels and long halls that seemed to go on forever. Ships from different worlds came here every day. The station was like a small city floating in space where aliens from many planets worked together. Kira was 12 years old, but she looked different from human children. Her people were called Villani. They had skin that looked like colored glass, and it changed colors when they felt strong emotions. Right now, her skin showed that she felt very alone. The other alien children were playing a game with a round ball. They threw it to each other and tried to catch it. When someone dropped the ball, they all laughed together. Kira wanted to join them, but she was not allowed. You must not play with them, her guardian Seokman had told her many times. We Villani are better than other species. We do not lower ourselves by playing silly games. Seokman was the cultural attaché for her people. He was supposed to take care of her while her parents worked on important Villani business. But he spent most of his time in meetings with other adults. He only came to check on her twice a day. Kira pressed her face against the clear wall that separated the observation area from the play zone. The wall was cold against her forehead. She could see everything but could not join in. A small creature with purple fur and 6 legs was trying to climb on top of a jungle gym. 2 other children helped pull the creature up to the top. When it made it, all 3 of them made happy sounds. Kira had never heard her own species make sounds like that. The station's artificial day was ending. The lights in the ceiling slowly became dimmer to copy a sunset. Most of the children were getting tired from playing. Some sat in small groups and talked quietly. Others shared food that their parents had packed for them. Kira had food too, but she ate alone at a small table in the observation area. The Villani food was very healthy but did not taste like much. She wondered what the other children's food tasted like. Dongyun was walking through the station's lower level when he saw the alien girl. He was carrying his tool bag and checking the air filters like he did every day. His job was to make sure all the station's systems worked properly. He had seen many different aliens since he started working here 2 years ago. Most of them were adults who nodded politely when they passed him in the halls. But this young one was different. She looked so sad. Dongyun stopped walking and watched her for a moment. The girl's skin was mostly gray with blue spots. He did not know much about alien biology, but something told him those colors meant she was unhappy. The girl was looking through a window at other children playing. She pressed her hands against the glass like she wanted to go through it. But there was a clear barrier between her and the play area. Dongyun had grown up with a younger sister. He knew what loneliness looked like even on an alien face. His sister used to stand outside playgrounds the same way when other kids would not let her join their games. He looked around and saw other human workers walking by. None of them seemed to notice the alien girl. They were all busy with their own jobs and problems. But Dongyun could not just walk away. Minji was in her lab studying samples from a new planet when her communication device beeped. She was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms. She loved learning about how different species lived and grew. The message was from her friend Taemin, who worked in station security. "Have you seen the young Villani in Section 7? He wrote. "She looks upset. Do you know anything about their emotions?" Minji put down her work and thought about what she knew. The Villani were a proud species that had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago. They had very strict rules about how their people should behave. She had read that Villani skin changed colors based on emotions. Gray meant sadness or loneliness. Blue spots showed deep unhappiness. If the girl's skin looked like that, she was probably having a very hard time. Minji decided to go see for herself. She took the elevator up to Section 7 where the children's area was located. When she got there, she saw exactly what Taemin had described. The Villani girl stood alone behind a barrier watching other children play. Her skin looked like storm clouds. No adult seemed to be paying attention to her. Minji also noticed Dongyun from the maintenance crew. He was standing nearby with his tool bag looking concerned. She had worked with him before on some projects. He was always kind and helpful. Taemin arrived a few minutes later. He was young for a security officer, but he was good at noticing when something was wrong. The 3 humans stood together and watched the alien girl. "She comes here every day," Taemin said quietly. Same time, same spot. She never talks to anyone. Where are her parents? Minji asked. Working, I think. There's a Villani cultural attaché who checks on her, but I only see him twice a day. Dongyun shifted his tool bag to his other shoulder. She looked so sad. My little sister used to look like that when kids at school were mean to her. The three humans watched as the alien children finished their games and started to leave the play area. The Villani girl's skin became even more gray as the area emptied out. Soon she would be alone again. We should do something, Dongyun said. Minji nodded. But we have to be careful. Different species have different rules about how adults can interact with children. Maybe we could start by just saying hello? Taemin suggested. The Villani girl turned away from the window and started walking toward the exit. Her shoulders were down and she moved slowly like she was carrying something heavy. Tomorrow would be another day just like today. She would come back to the same spot and watch the same children play the same games, and she would go home feeling just as alone as before. But Dongyun was already making plans. He had an idea that might help. It was small and simple, but sometimes small things could make a big difference. As he watched the girl disappear around the corner, he thought about his tool bag and what he might be able to make with the materials inside it. Maybe tomorrow would be different after all. The next day, Dongyun came to work early. He had spent the evening learning about Villani customs on his computer. The information was not very detailed, but he found out a few important things. Villani people valued politeness and respect above everything else. They had special ways of greeting each other that involved bowing and holding their hands in certain positions. They also believed that learning new things was very important. Dongyun practiced the greeting in his small apartment until he could do it without thinking. He also brought something special in his pocket. When he finished checking the air filters in Section 7, he saw Kira in her usual spot. She was standing behind the barrier again, watching the other children set up a new game. Her skin was the same gray color as yesterday, with blue spots on her arms. Dongyun took a deep breath and walked over to where she stood. He stopped a few feet away and performed the Villani greeting he had practiced. He bowed his head and held his hands out with his palms facing up. Kira turned around quickly. Her skin flickered with yellow spots, which Dongyun hoped meant surprise rather than fear. She looked at him for a long moment, then carefully copied the greeting back to him. Hello? Dongyun said in Galactic Standard, the common language used on the station. My name is Dongyun. I work here fixing things. I am Kira, she replied. Her voice was soft and had a musical quality to it. You know Villani greeting customs. I learned them last night, Dongyun admitted. I wanted to meet you properly. More yellow appeared on Kira's skin. Dongyun was pretty sure this meant curiosity. He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small paper crane. He had folded it that morning from a piece of white maintenance paper. I made this for you, he said, holding it out carefully. Kira stared at the paper bird. She had never seen anything like it. The paper was folded into perfect angles that created the shape of a small creature with wings and a pointed beak. What is it? She asked. It is called origami. Humans fold paper into different shapes. This one is a crane, which is a type of bird from my home planet. Kira slowly reached out and took the paper crane. It was much lighter than she expected. She turned it around in her hand, studying how the paper was folded. How do you make the paper hold this shape? She asked. Dongyun smiled. Would you like me to show you? Kira's skin developed streaks of pale gold mixed with the yellow. She nodded eagerly. Dongyun pulled out another piece of paper and sat down on a nearby bench. Kira sat next to him, still holding her crane carefully. First you fold it in half like this, Dongyun explained, creasing the paper. Then you fold it in half the other way. Kira watched every movement. Her skin was becoming brighter as the gold streaks spread. She tried to copy what he was doing with her own piece of paper. Your fingers are more flexible than mine, Dongyun noticed. You might be even better at this than humans are. This made Kira's entire face light up with golden colors. No one had ever told her she might be better at something than another species. The Villani were always told they were superior, but no one had ever shown her proof. They worked together for 20 minutes. Kira's first crane was not perfect, but it looked like a bird. She held it up next to the one Dongyun had given her. I made this, she said, and her voice had wonder in it. You did very well for your first try, Dongyun said. Across the play area, other alien children had noticed what they were doing. A young creature with tentacles instead of arms was pointing at the paper birds. Two others came closer to the barrier to get a better look. "They are watching us," Kira said. For a moment her skin flickered back toward gray. "Is that bad?" Dongyun asked. Kira thought about it. "Sukman says I should not let other species see me doing things that are not dignified. But this feels like learning, not playing. What if we called it cultural exchange?" Donghyun suggested. "You are learning about human art and I am learning about Vellani abilities." Kira's skin brightened again. "Cultural exchange is very important to my people." Yenwu had been watching the interaction from his office window. He was the station's child psychologist, and it was his job to make sure all the young aliens were healthy and happy. He had been worried about Kira for weeks. The girl came to the children's area every day, but never participated in any activities. She always left looking sadder than when she arrived. Now he saw her sitting with a human maintenance worker, and her skin was showing colors he had never seen before. Bright gold and yellow patterns moved across her arms and face like sunlight on water. He made a note to research what those colors meant. If they were positive emotions, this might be the breakthrough Kira needed. Sujin was setting up materials for the afternoon learning session when she noticed the crowd of alien children pressed against the barrier. They were all trying to see what the Vellani girl and the human were doing. Sujin was a teacher in the alien integration program. Her job was to help young aliens from different species learn to work together, but she had never been able to include Kira because of the strict Vellani cultural rules. She walked over to see what was happening. The maintenance worker was showing Kira how to fold paper into different shapes. The Vellani girl was completely focused on the task and her skin was glowing with beautiful colors. "Excuse me," Sujin said politely. "I am Sujin, one of the teachers here." "What are you working on?" Donghyun looked up. "I am teaching Kira about origami." "It is a human art form." "And I am learning about human creativity," Kira added. "It is cultural exchange." Sujin smiled. Kira was clever to frame it that way. "Would you be willing to share what you have learned with the other children?" Many of them seem very interested. Kira looked at her paper cranes, then at the alien children watching from the other side of the barrier. Her skin flickered between gold and gray as she felt both excited and nervous. "I do not know if I am allowed," she said quietly. "What if we asked permission first?" Sujin suggested. "I could speak with your guardian about organizing an official cultural exchange session." Donghyun nodded. "That sounds like a good idea. We want to make sure we follow all the proper rules." Kira's skin settled into a warm golden color. For the first time since coming to the station, she felt like she might have friends. When Seokmin came to check on her that evening, Kira was still holding her paper cranes. She showed them to him proudly. "A human taught me this art," she explained. "It is called origami. It requires precision and patience, which are important Vellani virtues." Seokmin examined the paper birds. They were indeed examples of skill and careful work. "This human appreciates Vellani abilities?"
"Yes," Kira said.
"He said my fingers are more flexible than human fingers. He thinks I might be better at this art than humans are." Seokmin's expression softened slightly. If other species recognized Vellani superiority, perhaps some interaction could be acceptable. "We will see," he said. "But you must always remember that you represent all Vellani people. You must never do anything that would make us look weak or foolish." "I understand," Kira said. But inside she was hoping that tomorrow would bring another chance to learn something new. That night, she carefully placed her paper cranes on the small shelf in her quarters. They were the first things she had ever made with her own hands that were beautiful, instead of just useful. For the first time since coming to Harmony Station, Kira fell asleep with golden colors still glowing softly on her skin. 3 days later, Sujin had arranged everything. She spoke with Seokmin and convinced him that a cultural exchange crafting session would be educational and proper for a young Vellani. "Kira will be sharing knowledge about precision and artistic technique," Sujin had explained. "Other species will learn about Vellani attention to detail." Seokmin agreed, but only if the session was formal and educational, not just playtime. Donghyun was nervous as he set up the paper and materials. He had never taught a group of alien children before. He was not sure if origami would work for beings with tentacles, claws, or other different kinds of hands. Kira arrived early and helped him arrange the supplies. Her skin was bright yellow with excitement, but she kept glancing around to make sure she was being properly dignified. What if they do not like it? She asked. Then we will try something else, Donghyun said. The important thing is that we are all learning together. The first student to arrive was a young Corvin with 4 arms and very delicate fingers. Behind him came a Thex child who had to use a special breathing mask in the station's atmosphere. Everyone sit in a circle, Sujin instructed. Donghyun and Kira will teach us about human and Vellani approaches to paper folding. Kira's skin flickered nervously, but she took a deep breath and began to speak. In Vellani culture, we believe that precision creates beauty, she said in careful galactic standard. When we make something with our hands, every fold must be exactly right. She demonstrated by folding a perfect crane in less than a minute. Her flexible fingers moved smoothly through the complex steps. The other children watched in amazement. The Corvin tried to copy her movements with his 4 arms, but his paper tore. Do not worry, Kira said gently. Donghyun taught me that making mistakes is part of learning. Donghyun smiled. Kira is right. Humans believe that practice makes us better. We are not afraid to fail if it helps us improve. He showed the group a simpler design, just a paper hat. Soon all the children were successfully making hats and wearing them on their heads or whatever body parts seemed appropriate. The young Thex made a hat for each of his eye stalks. The Corvin made 4 hats and wore them on all 4 hands. Even the tentacled child managed to wrap a hat around one of his appendages. Kira laughed when she saw them all wearing paper hats. The sound was like tiny bells ringing. Her skin turned brilliant gold and silver, colors so beautiful that everyone stopped what they were doing to stare at her. You are very pretty when you are happy, said a small voice. Everyone turned to see Ji-won, a human girl who had just arrived with her father Ji-ho. Ji-won was 10 years old and visiting the station while her father worked on upgrading the computer systems. I have never seen skin that changes colors before, Ji-won continued. Can you make it do different things? Kira's skin flickered with uncertainty. No one had ever asked her about her colors in such a direct way. Different emotions make different colors, she explained shyly. That is so cool, Ji-won said. Humans have to use words to tell people how we feel. You can show it. Kira had never thought about her color-changing skin as something special. To her people it was normal. But seeing Ji-won's excitement made her realize that other species might find it wonderful instead of strange. Can you show us sad colors? Asked the Corvin child. Kira thought about being lonely behind the barrier. Her skin shifted to gray and blue. Now happy colors, said the Thex. Kira remembered making her first paper crane with Donghyun. Golden light spread across her arms and face. Amazing, said several children at once. For the next hour, the crafting session turned into something much more interesting. The children taught each other traditional games and activities from their home worlds. The Corvin showed them a clapping game that worked better with 4 hands. The Thex demonstrated how his people made music by humming through their breathing tubes. Ji-won taught everyone rock, paper, scissors, which worked surprisingly well even with tentacles and claws. Kira shared a Vellani meditation technique that created beautiful flowing patterns on her skin. The other children sat quietly and watched the colors move like slow lightning across her body. My people use this to stay calm and focused, she explained. The patterns help us think clearly. I wish I could do that, Ji-won said. Sometimes I get really worried about things and it would be nice to have a way to calm down. I can teach you the breathing part, Kira offered. You will not get the colors, but the calmness still works. Donghyun watched from the side as Kira transformed from a lonely observer into a confident teacher. Her skin glowed with pride as she helped the other children learn her techniques. Ji-ho arrived to pick up his daughter and was surprised to find her sitting in a circle with alien children, all breathing slowly with their eyes closed. What is happening here? He asked Donghyun quietly. Cultural exchange, Donghyun replied. The kids are teaching each other. Ji-won looks so peaceful, Ji-ho observed. She has been having trouble sleeping since we got here. Everything is so different from home. Kira taught her a Vellani relaxation method, Donghyun explained. It seems to be working. When the session ended, none of the children wanted to leave. They had learned each other's names and shared games and stories. For the first time, the barrier between species seemed to disappear. Can we do this again tomorrow? Asked the Corvin child. Please? Added the Thex. Sujin looked at Kira. What do you think? Would you like to continue these cultural exchange sessions? Kira's skin blazed with joy. Yes, but she hesitated. I must ask Seokmin first. Of course, Sujin said. We will always follow proper procedures. As the children gathered their belongings, Jiwon ran up to Kira. Thank you for teaching me the breathing thing, she said, and for letting me be your friend. Friend? Kira repeated the word carefully. Yes, friends are people who like each other and want to spend time together. You are my friend now. Kira's skin flickered through several colors as she processed this new concept. In Villani culture, relationships were formal and based on social rank. But friend sounded like something simpler and warmer. I would like to be your friend too, Kira said finally. Jiwon hugged her quickly before running back to her father. Kira stood very still, surprised by the sudden contact. Villani people did not usually touch each other casually, but the hug had felt nice. Warm and friendly, just like the word itself. That evening, when Seokmin came to check on her, Kira was ready with her report. I taught 7 alien children about Villani meditation techniques, she said proudly. They were very impressed with our advanced mental discipline. And what did you learn from them? Seokmin asked. Kira thought carefully about how to answer. I learned that other species have valuable skills too. The Corvin coordination abilities are quite remarkable. Human creativity is more sophisticated than I expected. Seokmin nodded approvingly. It is good to understand the capabilities of other species. Knowledge is always useful. He did not ask about the laughter or the games or the feeling of belonging. Those things were not part of official Villani reports, but Kira remembered them anyway. As she arranged her growing collection of paper animals on her shelf, she thought about having friends and being part of a group. Tomorrow, there would be another cultural exchange session. Tomorrow she would teach and learn and laugh with children who thought her color-changing skin was beautiful, instead of just normal. For the first time in her life, Kira was excited about tomorrow. 2 weeks had passed since the cultural exchange sessions began. Kira's life had changed completely. Every day she looked forward to spending time with her new friends. Her skin stayed bright with golden and silver colors most of the time now. She had learned to play many games and had taught the other children several Villani arts and customs. The alien children loved watching her skin change colors, and she had stopped feeling embarrassed about it. But on this morning, everything went wrong. Kira was showing Jiwon how to fold a complex paper flower when Seokmin arrived at the children's area. His face looked angry and he walked with fast, sharp steps. Kira, he called out loudly. Come here immediately. Kira's skin instantly turned pale gray. She had never heard Seokmin use that tone of voice with her before. The other children stopped what they were doing and stared. I will be right back, Kira whispered to her friends. But something in Seokmin's expression told her that might not be true. She followed him to a quiet corner where no one else could hear them. I have received a communication from the Villani Council, Seokmin said in their native language. They are not pleased with reports of your behavior. Kira's skin became darker gray. What reports? Someone has been sending videos of these cultural exchange sessions to other worlds. The council has seen you laughing and playing with inferior species. They say you are bringing shame to all Villani people. Deep blue spots appeared on Kira's arms and face. She felt like she was falling into a cold, dark place. But I have been teaching them about our culture, she said desperately. I have been showing them Villani skills and knowledge. You have been acting like a common child instead of a proper Villani youth, Seokmin replied harshly. The council has ordered me to end these sessions immediately. You are forbidden from any further contact with alien children. Kira's skin turned completely black. It was a color that meant complete despair. No, she whispered. Please, Seokmin. They are my friends. Villani do not have friends with other species, Seokmin said firmly. We have allies, servants, and subjects. We do not have equals. But they are not beneath us, Kira said, her voice getting stronger. Jiwon is kind and smart. The Corvin child can solve puzzles faster than anyone. The Thex knows more about music than any Villani I have met. Seokmin's expression became even more stern. You see? You have been corrupted by spending time with them. You no longer understand proper Villani values. He pulled out a communication device and showed her an official message. Tomorrow morning you will board a transport ship back to Velen Prime. The council has decided that you need immediate re-education about your cultural identity. Kira stared at the message in horror. Going back to Velen Prime meant leaving her friends forever. It meant returning to a world where she would be alone again. surrounded by people who thought emotions were weaknesses and friendships were inappropriate. Across the room, her friends were still working on their paper projects. Jiwon was carefully folding the flower Kira had been teaching her. The Corvin child was making a chain of tiny cranes with all 4 of his hands. They did not know that this would be the last time they would see. Hernaeon was working in the diplomatic offices when she received an urgent message from Sujin. The teacher was requesting an immediate meeting about a serious situation with one of the alien children. Nayeon was a diplomatic aide who specialized in interspecies relations. She had been following the cultural exchange program with great interest because it was one of the most successful integration projects the station had ever seen. When Sujin arrived at her office, she looked very upset. "They are taking Kira away," Sujin said without any greeting. "The Villani Council has ordered her to return home for re-education. She leaves tomorrow morning." Nayeon felt her heart sink. What happened? The program has been going so well. Someone has been sending reports back to the Villani homeworld. They say Kira has been corrupted by contact with other species. "That is ridiculous," Nayeon said angrily. "Kira has been thriving. She has made friends and learned to be confident. She has been teaching other children about Villani culture better than any formal ambassador could." "I know," Sujin agreed, "but the Villani Council does not see it that way. They think she has been degraded by playing with inferior species." Nayeon stood up and began pacing around her office. "There has to be something we can do. Some diplomatic solution. Jaemin is researching Villani cultural laws right now," Sujin said, "but we are running out of time." Meanwhile, Dongyun was finishing his maintenance rounds when Taemin found him. "We have a problem," the security officer said. "Kira is being sent home tomorrow, permanently." Dongyun dropped his tool bag. "What, why?" Taemin explained what he had learned from Sujin. As he talked, Dongyun's expression became more and more determined. "We cannot let this happen," Dongyun said firmly. "That girl was miserable when she first came here. Now she is happy and confident. Her friends would be heartbroken." "I know," Taemin said. "But what can we do? This is a decision by the Villani government." "There has to be a way," Dongyun insisted. "Let me think." In the children's area, Kira sat with her friends for what might be the last time. She had not told them yet that she was leaving. She did not know how to say the words. Jiwon was chattering excitedly about a new origami design she wanted to try. The Corvin child was showing everyone a game he had invented using paper cranes. The Thex was humming a gentle song that made beautiful harmonies with his breathing tubes. Kira's skin flickered between black despair and golden happiness as she watched them. These moments with her friends were the best parts of her entire life. Tomorrow they would just be memories. "Kira, are you okay?" Jiwon asked. "Your colors look sad." Kira tried to smile, but her skin stayed dark. "I am fine," she lied, but Jiwon was getting to know her well. "No, you are not. Something is wrong." "What happened?" Before Kira could answer, Commander Yuna's voice came over the station's communication system. "All department heads and diplomatic personnel, please report to Conference Room 1 immediately. This is a priority meeting." Kira did not know it, but that announcement was the beginning of a desperate plan to save her from being sent away. Jaemin had found something in the old Villani cultural records. It was a law that nobody had used for over 100 years, but it was still officially valid. In Conference Room 1, all the humans who had worked with Kira were gathering. Dongyun and Sujin and Taemin and Nayeon and many others were ready to fight for their young friend. They had less than 18 hours to save her. But sometimes when people really care about something, 18 hours is enough time to change everything. Kira did not know about the meeting yet. She was still sitting with her friends trying to memorize their faces so she would remember them after she was gone. But she would not be going anywhere. The humans had a plan. The emergency meeting lasted all night. Commander Yuna listened as Jaemin explained what he had found in the ancient Villani laws. "There is something called the Cultural Elevation Provision," Jaemin said, reading from his computer screen. "If a Villani citizen can prove that their actions have elevated the standing of their species rather than diminished it, the Council must reconsider any punishment." "What does that mean exactly?" asked Yuna. "It means we have to show that Kira's friendships have made other species respect the Villani more, not less." Nayeon leaned forward. "How do we prove something like that?" Dongyun had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now he spoke up. "We show them what really happened. We show them how Kira taught everyone about Villani culture, and how much the other children learned to admire her people. A ceremony, Sujin added excitedly. We organize a formal presentation where Kira demonstrates everything she has accomplished. Su Yun, the station's cultural documentarian, nodded enthusiastically. I can record everything and broadcast it to the member worlds. If we can show the Villani Council that their culture is being honored and respected, they might change their minds. We only have until the transport ship arrives at noon, Taman reminded them. That gives us about 10 hours. Then we better get started, Yuna said. The next morning, Kira woke up feeling terrible. Her skin was still black with despair. This was her last day on Harmony Station, and she had not even said goodbye to her friends yet. She put on her nicest clothes and went to the children's area early. She wanted to spend as much time as possible with her friends before the transport ship came. But when she arrived, something strange was happening. The entire recreation area had been decorated with colorful banners and lights. Tables were set up in a big circle, and many adults were rushing around preparing something. Kira, Ji-won called out when she saw her. There you are. We have been waiting for you. What is all this? Kira asked in confusion. It is a cultural appreciation ceremony, Sujin explained as she walked over. We are going to show everyone what you have taught us about Villani culture. Kira's skin flickered with yellow spots of confusion. I do not understand. Donghyun appeared carrying a large box. We found out that you were being sent away, so we decided to do something about it. But how can you stop the council's decision? Kira asked. By proving that you have honored your people instead of shaming them, Nayeon said as she joined the group. Today, you are going to show the galaxy how wonderful Villani culture really is. For the next 2 hours, Kira watched in amazement as her friends and the human adults prepared the most beautiful ceremony she had ever seen. They had learned traditional Villani songs and dances. They had made decorations in the colors that were important to her people. Ji-won and the other alien children had practiced the formal Villani greeting until they could do it perfectly. They had even learned some basic phrases in the Villani language. We want to show everyone that knowing you made us better, Ji-won explained. You taught us about being precise and careful in thinking before we act. You showed us that emotions can be beautiful, not just messy. When everything was ready, Soo-hyun set up her recording equipment. Minho made sure the broadcast would reach every member world, including Valen Prime, at exactly 11 a.m., 1 hour before the transport ship was scheduled to arrive. The ceremony began. Kira stood in the center of the circle wearing traditional Villani ceremonial robes that Sujin had found in the station's cultural archives. Her skin was glowing with nervous gold and silver patterns. Today we gather to honor the cultural exchange that has enriched all our lives, Commander Yuna announced to the assembled crowd. We will demonstrate what we have learned about the noble and ancient traditions of the Villani people. One by one, Kira's friends showed what she had taught them. The Corvin child performed a Villani meditation that created beautiful flowing movements with all 4 of his arms. The Thex demonstrated how Villani breathing techniques could create harmony in music. Ji-won led a group of children in folding origami cranes, but she did it with the careful precision that Kira had taught her. Each fold was exact and perfect, just like Villani philosophy demanded. Then it was Kira's turn to speak. She walked to the center of the circle, and her skin blazed with gold and silver light. I am Kira of the Villani, she said in a clear, strong voice. When I came to this station, I thought my people were alone in the galaxy. I thought we were different from everyone else, and that difference meant we could not connect. Her skin shifted to show gentle waves of color as she continued. But I learned that being different does not mean being separate. My friends taught me that diversity makes everyone stronger. They showed me that sharing knowledge helps everyone grow. She gestured to the alien children around her. These young beings learned about Villani precision and mental discipline. But I learned about Corvin coordination and Thex musical harmony and human creativity. We all became better by learning from each other. The crowd was completely silent, watching the beautiful colors move across Kira's skin as she spoke from her heart. I am proud to be Villani, she declared, but I am also proud to be a citizen of the galaxy. I am proud to have friends who see the beauty in our differences instead of being afraid of them. At that moment, Sokmin arrived with 2 Villani guards. They had come to escort Kira to the transport ship. But when they saw the ceremony and heard Kira's words, they stopped walking. The alien children surprised everyone by standing up and performing a traditional Villani honor dance. They had learned it just for this moment. The dance was complex and required perfect timing, but they did it flawlessly. As the dance ended, G1 stepped forward with a special gift. She presented Kira with a paper crane that had tiny LED lights woven into it. When she pressed a button, the lights pulsed in rhythm with Kira's emotional colors. "This is so you will always remember that your feelings are beautiful," G1 said. Kira took the glowing crane, and for the first time in her life she felt completely and totally happy. Her skin exploded with every color she could produce, gold and silver and crystal blue and warm amber, all swirling together like a rainbow made of light. But the most amazing thing happened when she looked at her friends' faces. They were all smiling at her with so much love and joy that something inside her just broke open. Kira had spent her entire life learning to control her expressions and behave with proper Villani dignity. But in that moment, surrounded by friends who thought her differences were wonderful, she could not control anything. Her face stretched into a huge, uncontrolled, completely undignified grin. It was not the small, polite smile that Villani children were taught to use. It was a massive, joyful, absolutely ridiculous grin that took up her entire face and made her eyes crinkle up and her cheeks hurt. The grin was so unexpected and so completely happy that everyone in the room started laughing and cheering. Even some of the serious Villani guards smiled despite themselves. At that exact moment, Soohyun's recording equipment captured the most beautiful image of interspecies friendship that anyone had ever seen. A young Villani girl, glowing like a rainbow, grinning with pure joy while surrounded by alien friends who loved her exactly as she was. The image was broadcast across the galaxy in real time. Within minutes, it was being shared on every world and every communication network. On Velan Prime, the council members watched the ceremony in silence. They saw their young citizen representing their culture with pride and dignity. They saw other species learning Villani traditions with respect and admiration. Most importantly, they saw that Kira had become an ambassador for their people in ways that no formal diplomat ever could. The council's emergency vote was unanimous. Not only would Kira be allowed to stay on Harmony Station, but she would be officially designated as the youngest cultural ambassador in Villani history. When the news came through, Kira's grin got even bigger if that was possible. Her friends cheered and hugged her, and her skin continued to glow with every happy color she could make. Donghyun watched from the side with tears in his eyes. 2 months ago, he had seen a lonely alien girl standing behind a barrier. Now that same girl was surrounded by friends, representing her people with pride, and grinning like the universe belonged to her. "Thank you," Kira said to him later, when the ceremony was over and the excitement had died down. "Thank you for showing me how to fold paper cranes. Thank you for showing me that sometimes the smallest acts of friendship can change everything," Donghyun replied. As the artificial evening began on Harmony Station, Kira sat in the children's area with her friends. They were planning new games and cultural exchanges for tomorrow. Her LED crane sat on the table, pulsing gently with warm gold light. Every few minutes, when someone said something funny or kind, Kira would break into that amazing grin again. She had finally found her reason to smile, not the controlled, dignified expression of a proper Villani, but the huge, joyful, completely honest grin of a young person who knew she was loved exactly as she was. And in a galaxy full of different species and different cultures, that grin became a symbol of hope for everyone who had ever felt alone or different or afraid.